Well, we were talking during the break, for those of you who were away on radio, about the financial and the business aspect of it. And who better than Vince Thompson, who runs a sports marketing enterprise in Atlanta. He has been one of the most requested and popular guests that we've had on this program all fall long, and nobody better to bring on a day like today. Vince, many thanks. Always great to have you on. Happy New Year, my friend, and let's get right to it.
Happy New Year, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well. I really am, and I thought of you today, and so did everyone else. As Tua was making the announcement in Tuscaloosa, I saw dollar signs above his head. What did you see?
Well, I'm not sure if you planned this or not, but the lead into our call was from Regions Bank, which will be a very appropriate first endorsement for Tua. I'll give you about 30 million reasons why he made that decision today.
Tell us more.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Obviously now hindsight is 2020, but make no mistake, this was a business decision. I think he's a fine young man. Obviously, I think his relationship with Saban, one of the most famous plays in college football history with the walk-off against Georgia. But in the end, he apparently has gotten a clean bill of health. And, if you look at what the top five guys made last year in the draft, an average of $30 million for 4 years. And the other interesting piece of this equation is that he did go with Lee Steinberg, and Steinberg is Mahomes' agent. And if you look at how Mahomes is being marketed in the NFL, I think that that's the game plan they're going to follow with Tua. He is going to be a highly marketable athlete because he's going to make what he's going to make within the draft structure. I also think, interestingly, there's a lot of things in play here. Does Tua go to the Chargers because Phillip Rivers is retiring and they got a new stadium to pay for? Does he go to the Patriots where Brady trains him for a year, or the Saints and Breeze? I mean, I think that this is going to be one of the most fascinating players to chart. But one of the upsets of the day is that he did not sign with CAA, which is obviously a tremendous powerhouse. And I'd love to be on the fly on the wall to have heard those discussions, but he certainly didn't make that decision today. So clearly the die had been cast for a while, because that process is hugely competitive to choose the top agents.
Let me ask you about Lee Steinberg. I mentioned earlier, been 20 years, but the movie Jerry Maguire was based on him. He had an epic, and I mean an epic, fall from grace, Vince. I mean, he went from the hottest agent in the world to literally nobody would give him the time of day. Tell us about Lee Steinberg and how he's been able to work his way back.
Well, I mean, America loves second chances, and they love forgiveness. And I don't know Lee personally. We've dealt with him in the past. But, the main thing I noticed about him, obviously he is ingenious about this. He pioneered a lot of this. If you think about a football agent, that's more transactional, particularly with rookies, because they're only going to make within a salary band. And if they make it to the next level, there's obviously a salary band of $100, $150 million. But Lee Steinberg, clearly, a lot of agents are transactional. He is a marketing mastermind, and that's probably the value of which he sold that in on, is the ability to not only get to an amazing contract, but also to get to some endorsement deals. Because if you look, there's been a little bit of a lag since Peyton Manning left. There's not a lot of individual endorsement deals, believe it or not, in the NFL. Peyton leaves. He's obviously still on. And then Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and two or three these other guys have kind of filled this gap in. So it's a signal. I think Tua is more highly marketable than Joe Burrow, even though Joe Burrow is as great of a story.
Well, why is that,
as Tua? But if you just look at Tua's, just what we'll call a demographic package. He's from Hawaii. He's playing the ukulele in the bed right after the surgery. He's got this great faith. He throws this walk-off home run against Georgia. He's sort of in that Mahomes style, and he's in the style of how the NFL wants to market to different demographics than maybe they did in the past.
And yeah, and right now it just seems like everything's basketball related. I mean, I saw Aaron Rodgers 150 times over the last 3 days, but that's because the insurance company is a big sponsor of the NFL. But you're right. You do not see many other players. In terms of Tua, you mentioned money. I want to go over that again because you dropped some big dollar figures on us. Go over that again and explain how that works.
So in the last collective bargaining agreement with the NFL, it used to be inverse. So when Matt Stafford first signed his first NFL contract, he got $70 million. And so the veterans were like, well, hey, this is sort of out of whack for an unproven player. And so the next collective bargaining agreement, they sort of inverted that where the long-term players are more rewarded than the guys on the come out because something happens to Matt in the first year. He still gets his $70 million, and it impacts the rest of the team's payroll. So the top guy, Kyler, last year got $35 million. Bosa got $33. Quinnen got $32. Cleveland Farrell got $31, and Devin White got $29. So it kind of drops off below $30 after 4, and then it drops off below $20 after number 9, and then it stays in that band pretty much all the way to $10 million at number 32. And so make no mistake about this with Tua. It was 90% a business decision, and the other big winner is Nick Saban, because how Nick Saban handled this entire situation with the injury, how he supported him, and how he supported this decision. If you don't think a lot of moms and dads in living rooms and future NFL athletes are not taking that cue from Nick, you're crazy, because there was a lot of other factors to consider that not many people that thought about. And so don't think Nick wasn't thinking about winning future living rooms with how he handled this entire situation.
And Vince, I have to piggyback on that. So here, Nick Saban, you lose to Auburn, you're off the face of the earth. It's all about LSU. It's all about the national championship. But last Wednesday, the Alabama-Michigan game was seen by 14 million people. That is a gargantuan number for a non-Rose Bowl New Year's Day game. Once Tua made the decision, Saban was in the news, and today he held court for 30 minutes on live television across the country, and he's not in the national championship game.
Well, make no mistake, I mean, Nick Saban is still the king of college football. And make no mistake that the Alabama brand is the Cowboys and the Yankees and the Celtics and the Cubs. And then you couple that up with playing another storied program, well, not so much lately, but the University of Michigan, and it's going to attract those eyeballs. And, with respect to my alma mater, Auburn, and you look at the Auburn-Minnesota ratings, it was head-to-head with Alabama. Alabama trounced that game. I don't know why they played it at the same time, obviously for TV considerations, but Nick is still the king. They got the number one class. They got the number one quarterback. He handled Tua with tons of grace and gratitude. That's going to win a lot of other living rooms. And Saban, obviously he plays the long game, but that's his wisdom.
One more time on the number, because I thought it was really interesting what you said. So. Forget what Tua will make from his NFL contract. I think that's pretty stationary in terms of where he lands, and you went over the list. But what, again, is the number marketing-wise that he could possibly make fairly early on?
It probably will make somewhere between $5 and $10 million, maybe a little north of $10 million. Obviously he'll get a very attractive shoe contract. We've got a great storyline to get him an Aflac contract, obviously, because he's come back from an injury. Shameless plug there. You've got you've got the NFL sponsors, you've got Bose headphones, you've got their competitors' beats, you've got he just fits a really good profile. Like I said, Joe Burrow is the All-American kid. He'll probably become another Peyton, but I can see Tua falling in the line with Mahomes and even Baker Mayfield, but Baker hasn't had, he's got more endorsements than he has, in NFL touchdowns. And so I could see Tua making north of $10 million a year in endorsements, because he's an exceptional situation, particularly if he goes into an A market and he's healthy and he begins to perform, or he's under the tutelage of a great one in anticipation. San Diego would be the great landing place because they got a big new stadium to fill. Phillip Rivers is on his way out. He could tutor him for a year, and they fit him right into that market. And you've got feeders coming in from Hawaii, California, Arizona, and a lot of places to see a unique combination that Tua is as a person and as a professional athlete. And the NFL, by the way, NFL is going to put a lot of money behind marketing too as well because it reaches across demographic lines.
And Vince, as you say this, I mean, the NFL, based on the ratings over the weekend, has not been, or has I don't know if it's ever been this hot. I mean, I'm talking about the modern time where television is a jigsaw puzzle trying to get big numbers. I mean, 35 million people watching the late game yesterday with the Eagles and the Seahawks. The numbers across the board were just astronomical. And they will continue to go up this weekend and next.
Well, there's three factors. One is that there's four. The quality of the product is very, very good. You have compelling matchups. Sports is still the only way to aggregate a ton of live eyeballs. The legalization of gambling, which is going to eventually be in 50 states, is going to ensure that professional football and college football will maintain gargantuan rights fees and the fantasy. And speaking of which, Paul, don't forget, you and I called the CBS-SEC deal, and I promise you that number is going to be north of $400 million, maybe $500 million, which means each SEC school gets another $40 million a year, which is why you're seeing this building explosion. Alabama Stadium, Auburn facilities, Dan with the Florida facilities, and a lot of other places, because they're about to get an infusion of at least $40 million of cash per year per athletic department.
Yeah, I mean, that number had already gone up significantly, as you know, with the SEC network numbers, and it's about to go exponentially. Anyway, it's hard to get any better than this. Vince Thompson, fantastic conversation about the business side of the Tua decision and a few other meaty items there. Vince, be well. We will talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Paul. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Great conversation with Vince. We are heading to a break, and we'll get your reaction to all of this in our final 30 minutes on this Monday night.